Hi, today I have a message called Always Nestled in Safety. Okay, so first off is time is well spent by spirit. Whenever I have any tense feeling or concern around time, either in the moment by moment sense or in the broader general sense of time passing, I am allowing ego to feed me thoughts about time. I'm allowing in my perception the ego thoughts to make the perception of time. But time is well spent by spirit, so I do have a job to do. If I notice unease creeping in around the idea of time, it's time to stop and put time in the right hands, and to repeat the stopping as often as is necessary, and to find a specific thought every time I stop, because one ego thought is all ego thoughts. So it's not too much work to stop and find one thought. And when we address one thought from ego, we address all of them. It doesn't seem to be finally, because it seems we still have time in which there's still work to do, still being aware, still turning away from ego towards spirit, and that's okay. This is Spirit's kind use of time to help us find anywhere where we haven't turned over full control of what we perceive, and therefore what we seem to do and say, and what everybody else seems to do and say. If we haven't turned full control over that, over to Spirit yet, then time is used for the practicing of turning that control over. And when you put Spirit in charge of time, just observing this teaching is for me. I speak the teaching, but I'm not trying to teach anybody else. If you resonate, that's wonderful, and I am instructed to put it out here where people can resonate if it works for them. But I am receiving the teaching for me today, so I'm receiving the instruction to stop frequently, to find the specific thoughts, to put time in Spirit's hands, to notice when there's any lack of ease around time, that ego has sent me a thought that I want ego to be in charge of time, and I'm continuing in that. So just having the ability to interrupt and to have a divine, beautiful moment of rest and to reset, it's a beautiful gift that's here for all of us throughout what we experience as our days. And the more I stop and receive this gift, the happier I am. And I feel like that the core of my happiness is here in these moments of stopping. And I feel like when I stop, I just want to let that happiness and that ease and that trust spread out everywhere. I want to give it. I want to extend it. And from here, whatever it is our character is supposed to do and say in time, we're easing ourselves into the place where the guidance from Spirit, not ego, can come easily. But we're not there yet. If you're honest with yourself about how you feel as you walk through the day, we're not there yet, and that's okay. Time can be used very gently and kindly by Spirit, not in a punishing way. So if I catch myself fearing punishment or fearing a negative consequence for me or anyone else in some way, that's time bound. I've put time in the hands of ego again. I'm believing all the egoic thoughts about what might happen, what could happen, and all the negative consequences. So that's okay, because time's for resetting and reorienting, and I can do that. I judge all things as I would have them be. That's what I'm reorienting toward today. I think it's lesson 311 in A Course in Miracles. And that's just a helpful pointer for me. Everything is whole. Everything is holy. Everyone and everything in their being, not their person. They're innocent. They extend forever. They're eternal. There's no danger here. There's nothing to worry about here. And this here is what we put in charge to make our perception. Think of spending this day with all of your divine siblings across time and space, for in truth, you do spend every day in this way. We're always with all of our divine siblings across time and space. So it's interesting when we use time to go back in history and say, this positive or negative event occurred and it had this positive or negative effect. We see ourselves as time-bound. We could be victims to time. We make bodies victims to time. That's why I would say I made bodies, taking responsibility for the ego. And any I could say that. I made bodies in order to experience death, to perceive death, right? Using time for death. That was ego's use of time for death. But now the kind and gentle use of time is to redirect us toward eternal life. And if I'm making judgments about history and its consequences, I'm totally ignoring that I'm connected, divinely beautiful right now, with all of my divine siblings across time and space. Everything does get healed. Our perception gets completely corrected, not partially corrected. So imagine waking up tomorrow and having no remembrance that a war ever occurred anywhere. I'm not saying that's the case for me, but this is the example that's being given to me. You wake up tomorrow and there's no memory of strife because it never happened. It seems to have happened, and because I put and keep ego in charge, ego keeps reminding me and showing me proof of these particular events happened in the past, and I will meet up with others who say, yes, these particular terrible events happened in the past. And we have to put our egos in charge of making sure they don't happen again. And then we get war because we're trying to put our egos in charge of making sure war doesn't happen again. But ego is dedicated to death and conflict, so ego is definitely going to keep making war. And we can see this in our mind today. When we don't feel good, ego's making war, and we allowed it. And that's okay, because we can always turn back and look at ego. Look at it's not you, so you observe it. And the way I designed ego, it wasn't designed for this. It was designed to assist me in losing awareness of what I am. I certainly, as part of this plan, as part of ego's plan, was not supposed to stop, realize I am not it, and look back toward it and see what it's suggesting to me. And remember that what it's suggesting to me is top to bottom completely untrue. Completely. And behind it, shining behind it, is the truth. And I can begin to learn to rely on that truth throughout the day. But I do need to stop frequently. And I do need to find a very specific thought I believed when I stop. Because I wouldn't stop if I didn't have that sense of disturbance. I'm attached to something. I'm attached to something untrue. What is it? Then I find it. Just one thought. Another reason we don't want to do more than one thought is that we'll be telling a story. And we want to emerge out of the story we made up, not get entangled in it believing it's true. So if I remove one sentence from the story and recognize my not good feeling was the helpful alarm clock that I believed in a lie from ego, and here's one example of a lie I believe from ego, and then I set it down, I judge all things as I would have them be. Well, in Spirit's hands, everything becomes helpful. Everything becomes a kind and gentle assistant in our remembrance of who we are together, in our seeming journey. Although we're home right now, we're just convincing ourselves we're not, but our seeming journey together home. Anything you look at in the world can become an assistant, but we have to remember that spirit repurposes everything. When we put everything in spirit's hands and don't try to use it ourselves, spirit repurposes everything to assist everyone and everything. So I can just keep turning back toward that today, and turning back toward that instead of believing ego's judgments about everyone and everything. And in that way, being eternally connected to all my divine siblings across time and space. Whatever memory of time and space I'm supposed to have, I will have. And if that's none, it'll be none. So think about what a great resistance we've built up to forgetting or to having our memory altered. That's ego's insistence. If you feel like you have a forgetful moment and you become concerned, that feeling of concern is a beep, beep, beep. It's an alarm. And it's saying you believe something that isn't true. And the thought I believe sometimes that isn't true is I shouldn't forget things. So I'll set that thought down and let me remember I judge all things as I would have them be. Would I have them be whole, complete, holy, helpful, gentle? Holy Spirit can take the form of everything we experience. The form is conformable to the harmony, the beauty, the holiness we are. All of the form. But I have a choice to make when I choose to have ego in charge. Then the form is conformable. The form is conformable to chaos, destruction, uncertainty, name all your things, war, conflict, judgment. The form conforms. The form is obedient. So we don't have to fear the form, just see the form as obedient. And we're in charge of choosing in whose hands will form be placed today. My divine siblings across time and space, my memory of history. In whose hands will everything be placed today? Spirits, what we are together, the realness of us, or ego, the phantom, the imagination dedicated to fighting God, declaring death to be real, separating us when we're not separate, saying up things about some and down things about others, saying both up and down things about everyone and everything and myself, and the confusion and the chaos of that. That's my choice. If I want, I can put form in ego's hands. And the form is conformable. The form, whatever we perceive, whatever we experience, it's conformable. And we choose what it conforms to. I know I've talked a lot about that lately. It's because I'm really being urged to see it. That's why I repeat it a lot, because I'm taking it in and I'm remembering when ego is telling me something different about form, I am the decision maker until choiceless awareness comes upon me, and it hasn't. I'm not going to pretend that by intellectually understanding choiceless awareness, I'm not going to play act it or accuse anybody else of doing that, right? It just hasn't. I'm still deciding. Why? Because I've still experienced disturbance. So until that goes away, I am the decision maker. And I do decide who's in charge of form in my perception. And it's one of two. It's ego, what we are not, or it's spirit, what we are. So in that sense, can you see how you don't even need to get anybody to do anything because the form is just conformable. I get more and more chances and opportunities to settle in and just allow things to unfold without trying to get people to do things. And that doesn't mean that we're forbidden from that or that's not allowed, because it's just rolling along, isn't it? But when I don't feel good, I need to stop. I definitely need to stop. Instead of asking somebody to stop making war in another country, don't worry about them. Can you stop every single time you don't feel good today? Every single time. And then once I've mastered that, if I've mastered that, then I can ask those guys over there to stop making war. But once I master stopping every single time I don't feel good and addressing that, I'm not going to see war over there anymore, because I myself am generating the sight of it. Okay, let's see. Remember that no matter whom you seem to be talking to and about, you are talking to and about yourself. So we are the same one. And according to ego, we're comparable. We should compare one to another. According to spirit, we're the same. And I find that the more I can tune into the sameness, the easier everything flows, the happier I am, because there's nothing to think about. It's under ego's tutelage, we seem to want to be very busy with thoughts, figuring everything out, interpreting, analyzing, planning, right? And under Spirit's guidance, we begin to welcome not having to think, figure out, analyze, interpret, or plan. Everything's done for you. You receive instructions, you can follow them. And once we get a taste of this and feel the ease of it, we want to apply that in every area of our lives. Because who wouldn't want ease? Who wouldn't want happiness? Every place we don't feel good is where the ego is telling us, you can get happiness from here, and it's wrong about it. Ego may seem to be right for a little while, but the happiness it advertises and tries to guide us toward is always temporary and always crashes down into a low. But the happiness Spirit highlights for us is in all of us, and we can see that. It's available, it's present, and it's eternal. It never goes away, it doesn't fade. If I've taken my focus off it, that's okay. I can return my focus to it. But this is eternal happiness. And it can be our guide in all things. It can be our guide in how to see everyone and everything. Where would eternal happiness have me go today? What would eternal happiness have me say today? What would eternal happiness have me do today? And then a day, time, this limit we imposed upon ourselves, it's new purposes for finding out. F around and find out. in the best way, right? Find out. Okay, so I started this with, remember that no matter whom you seem to be talking to and about, you are talking to and about yourself. So that's an interesting lens. If I'm thinking about someone today, I can be aware of, okay, if I'm thinking these thoughts about me, how does that feel? And I can stop and reorient and identify the thoughts that are associated with the pain. That's our work. That's our important work. And the first thing you do when you find a thought associated with the pain is whatever metaphor comes to you, but it's a way of releasing it. Lately, I've been putting it down on the sidewalk. I used to put it on a tray that the holy servant was carrying, or a table of light, or into a lake of light. So if metaphor is your way, an appropriate metaphor for wherever you are in your learning will come to you. And if metaphor like that is not your way, then some way releasing the hold on the concept will come to you. And then in some way, I use a lesson from A Course in Miracles, we turn toward the other choice. So we chose for ego, we set that choice down. And we turn toward the other choice. I judge all things as I would have them be. I would have them be united, eternal. I would have them be helpful. I would have them be love itself. The form is conformable to my decision. That's how powerful I am, because that's how powerful you are. Because that's how truly powerful, not fake powerful, every villain is. Because that's how truly powerful everyone I've seen as victim is. We got to share the power everywhere. And it's benign power, so it cannot be used for attack and abuse. And if you see a villain in your world, wouldn't you want that villain to be fully supplied with a benign power that elevates them into happiness and lets them release everything that's making them unhappy? A happy villain doesn't commit villainy, right? So you give your happiness to everyone, and it belongs to you. It is yours because it is theirs. And you give it to everyone without exception to have fully, because no one's here to be punished. If we believe someone needs to be punished, we believe we need to be punished. And then form is conformable to that. Form can punish us or give us the illusion of punishment. What we are cannot be punished. What we are is not punishable. Right? So even if you're in an extreme form of indicating that you're punished, like you're in jail, well, this is where you get to learn that the form is conformable in unbelievable ways I cannot even fathom yet, because we're about to find out. Okay, and so from your position, seemingly within the limits of time and space, like everyone else, but maybe you're experiencing a more extreme limit, you're seem to be in a jail or a prison. From there, form is conformable. You can judge all things as you would have them be. Wherever you go, there you are, quote over there, powerful and benign, with no past. So this can be fun to think of what we call people like this. If you're aware that you have labeled anybody in your experience with the designation of difficult, that's a person who is difficult, who causes difficulty. Well, there's our judgment of ourselves, and form is conformable. So yeah, we might not want to, right? So looking at that, now we look at this being, the light shining behind the person, and the patterns we think are going to come from that person in the past. We think that person has look how we've stamped them. Look how we've limited them in time and space by defining them. But the light they are can shine right through any way we have attempted to define them. And so there you are in that one. Your being, their being. You're powerful. They're powerful. With benign power, with true power. Power over others is an illusion. Power to harm is an illusion that we wanted to see. I see it because I believe it, and I believe it because I want to see it. And I have to acknowledge that. The ego is going to come in emotional and say, I don't want to see anyone hurt. But I have to take responsibility for the ego who came here to see death and destruction and chaos. Right? The ego is going to present what the Course in Miracles calls the face of innocence and believe itself and say, I don't want to see anyone hurt. But you got to get down to where you want to see someone hurt. To find it, to release it. And if I'm thinking someone's difficult, I might want them to have a difficult or hurtful experience. And the ego will tell me, and so I think they'll understand what it's like to make things difficult for people, to have things be difficult for them, right? Well, the conform is conformable to what I want for others and myself. So if I look past the way I've tried to confine that being. Okay, I just paused to make bagels for my daughters, and I don't really know what I said last. But as I was going up the stairs to deliver the first bagel out to one of my daughters, I felt bad. And here's the thought I believed. What was it? My other daughter should have a bagel too. Okay, mind you, her bagel was in the toaster being toasted. I was going to go back down and get it. And so can you see how ridiculous the thoughts are that ego gives to us? And can you laugh at our belief in them? Because you will start to laugh and see how dramatic it is. And then we rely less and less on ego's up and down scale of emotions to define our experience or to tell us what's what. So when I feel ego's happiness, which always has anxiety and like overexcitement threaded through it, or ego's down feelings, it's just so unreal. And in our actual state of being, our eternal state of being, then when I turn back to when I set the thought down, my other daughter should have a bagel. She is bereft of bagels. She got hers a couple minutes later. So when we go back in, we find our actual state of being, peace, love, joy, extending forever, that nothing of the ego can ever touch or damage. We can block it out. We can pretend it's not there. And that's what I do with ego's up and down scale of emotions that seem to take me over, this bad feeling I had, right? And the ridiculous thought attached to it. But I judge all things as I would have them be. Everyone has the power to have everything be innocent, whole, helpful, clear. All the qualities of what Spirit would deliver to us and how Spirit would help us. Everyone has that power. So we can look at the true nature of everybody, right through the person, right through any of ego's up and down judgments about the person, to the power they are. Okay, because you are safety itself, everyone is in truth what you are. You are always nestled in safety. So taking that in, we're always nestled in safety. What we are is that safety. What everyone is safety. Why then would we be seeing and experiencing this? Well, let's delve into it. If we're here, if we are keeping ourselves time-bound and space-bound within the limits of time and space, and we're still experiencing, I woke up here today, I'm still here. Okay, then let's just respond appropriately to that. Let's respond to that in helpful ways. We can begin by saying everyone is safety itself. There's a guy speeding down the road. He's safety itself. My ego's going to want me to see conflict. My ego's going to want him to get into an accident to prove how reckless he is. And if you watch your own mind, you will find these things. Okay? You will find things like that. And it's not that you want him to get into an accident to prove that he's the reckless and dangerous one, right? Well, if you look back at this entity of ego, which is not you and not me, who seems to want the guy to get into an accident to show everybody that he's reckless and dangerous, that's what we're generating. And so then if you look further distant in another country, or maybe in your own, and there's a war, what's the difference? There's no difference. So we can sit here and say all we want, I don't want war. And you, as you truly are, do not want war. That's true. That's true of everybody as they truly are. So look at the leaders of the countries who seem to be engaging in war. That's true. In their being, they don't want war. Look at the victims. Yeah, in their being, they don't want war. But if we look at the world we generated it because we wanted it. We wanted chaos, we wanted confusion, we wanted an illusion, and we got it. We didn't do anything wrong, not a single solitary thing, because the illusion isn't real. And because harm, as realistic as we've made it for ourselves, and we've made it very realistic, can't ever be real. But we don't just walk up to anybody and try to school them in that. We learn the lesson for ourselves, and we have many opportunities to do this. Like when you're walking up the stairs with a bagel and you think you should have 2 instead of 1. In the tiniest ways, we stop and we reorient. And we heal from the addiction to want to see disorder and chaos. And you are so perfectly safe and supported in finding those places in your mind, believing ego thoughts, where the ego thoughts are oriented toward perceiving disorder and chaos. Every time we find a problem with another person, we're finding disorder out in a place other than ourselves. And how is that different than finding disorder in a far distant country? It's not different. And this is not to blame you for a war. It's just to help us see. It's just to help us see how important it is to reorient when we're walking up the stairs with a bagel and we feel bad. We're making a small effort toward our own happiness, and our own happiness is the same as that of everyone we call else, everyone who seems to be in the war-torn country, everyone everywhere. So it starts here. It starts in the tiny small details of life. It starts in the tiny disturbance in your mind, the war making, the disturbance, the attachment to disturbance, the wanting others to be blamed for disturbance, and the wanting to put yourself in an innocent category, right? Well, we're just going to keep having a repetition of that in small forms and big forms, near or far. It all ends up all being the same thing. But we can also come back to the awareness. I judge all things as I would have them be. I am safety itself, and everyone I call else is safety itself, and everything I call else is safety itself. I was taken through this thinking of a nuclear bomb one day in a contemplation. And form is conformable. Form is far more flexible. I'm noticing this is long, but I must have needed to go deeply in it. So if you're still here, hey. Form is very flexible and conformable to the truth of us. So if we keep our eyes on the truth of us, the truth that we share, the safety that we are, the safety that connects us, if we keep our eye on that, then form conforms to that. Form is obedient. I wonder how long I'll be saying these things. I might need to say them for years, I don't know. Or maybe I'll get it quickly. But there we go. Form is conformable, and we're always nestled in safety. So thank you, and wishing you well.